What was constant in all this time was Julia's faith in him, which sustained him through some very dark periods of time. As Joan Wall pointed out on the video, he would work very hard to have his wife with him at certain points during the campaign. There were other people talk about the Civil War marriages, but this was a Civil War marriage where the two people were in the same place. There was an aide, Horace Porter, who came in one time, and Grant was embarrassed because he was holding hands with his wife, which then probably is PG-13 behavior. But I'll tell you just a couple of stories that I think demonstrate the depth of love between these two people. When Grant became famous, by 1863, late in the year, he's famous, Julia had what was called thrombosis. Her eyes were crossed. And she had heard about a surgery that you could take to repair that situation. And so she went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "I'm sorry, you're too old for this operation." And so she went back, and tears in her eyes, and explained it to her husband, and Ulysses looked at her and said, "Julia, I fell in love with that face. Don't you touch it." And years later in the White House, Julia slips him a note quietly and says, "Isn't this the day you proposed to me? Wasn't the weather like this today?" And he goes, "I don't remember the weather at all. For me, it was snowing and everything else because I was really scared of proposing to you." These two people were passionately in love through the lows and the highs. And you know where they spent the most time together in their married lives? Washington, D.C., including 8 years in the White House. That's the longest time the Grants ever lived in the same residence.